I am Alison Woodall and I'm a relocation coach. My goal is to get you as much information as possible to help you with your move. First of all, before I get started, I want to make it very clear, this is not a webinar. For those of you who have never been on a webinar, it's basically someone teaching you something very simple for about 5 minutes, and then they spend the next 30 minutes doing some kind of hard sell, trying to sell you something very expensive. I have nothing expensive to sell you. The only thing that you can buy from me is my Make the Move guide, which is just $27. And it has everything in it that you need to plan your move, which is why you're going to hear me mentioning it a lot, because it's great. But my goal is to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes helping you plan your move. And then if you love what I teach you, you can download my planner, but there will be no hard sell at all in the next 30 minutes. So you can just relax and take as much value from what I'm about to teach you in our time together, and you get as much value as possible from it. So when people start thinking about moving, usually the only thing that they think about is buying or selling a home and packing up and moving their possessions. But I am going to help you plan for everything that's associated with your move. So obviously, yes, your home, yes, your stuff, including vehicles if you need to ship vehicles. But we're also going to talk about employment, healthcare issues, moving with school-age children or older, or leaving older children behind, elderly relatives that may move with you or stay behind, moving with animals, including 6 cats in a travel trailer. That's pretty impressive. And then how you're going to travel to your new state. And we'll also touch on anything that is unique to your situation. But because I don't want you to be here all night, and because I'm only just going to cover the issues that apply to everybody in detail, which is your home, your stuff, employment, unless you're lucky enough to be retired, and healthcare. But before I get started on talking about all of those things, we need to talk about how you make a plan. Because as I go through each of these logistical issues, you're going to be thinking, yep, I need to plan for that issue. Yep, need to take care of that. I must decide what I need to do in that situation. And this is going to create a big, long list of issues that you need to deal with. In my Make the Move guide, I have a template where you can log all of your issues, but it doesn't matter how you keep track of all the things you need to deal with. You can use the template in my Make the Move guide. You can use a Word document. You can use your phone, or you could even use a notebook. It doesn't matter where you write your list. The most important thing is that you create that list. And I'm going to refer to that as your master list of logistical issues. And everything that you write on this master list of logistical issues must have a date that you're going to complete it by. Otherwise, you are just going to keep pushing off the things that you don't want to do. The less you want to do something, the more you're going to push it off. If you want to be super efficient, you can actually schedule the tasks that you've got on your master list on your calendar or on your phone with an alarm to hold yourself accountable and make sure these things get done. If you're moving with a spouse or a partner or with other family members, especially teens can do a lot of things that you don't give them credit for. You must give them responsibilities. Don't do everything yourself. Otherwise, you are just going to be so exhausted and stressed. So as I go through this live training, I want you to start creating your own master list of all the issues that you need to take care of. For now, just write them on a pad of paper or get your phone out. And I suppose if you, I've just done a live in the other group, and I said, oh, get your phone out and start putting it in making your list in your phone. But you could be watching me on your phone. So anyway, wherever you make a list, just start thinking about things, or come back and watch this replay. It's going to be pinned in the announcement section so you can go through it again. But when you've started to create that list, there are going to be some issues on your master list that you're going to need to break down into smaller tasks. In my Make the Move guide, I have a planning sheet where you can break out all of these issues from your master list into smaller tasks with their own due date and a person who's responsible. So to give you an example, you could have on your master list selling our home, maybe one line item, but then you would have a separate planning sheet that details all of the many tasks that you need to complete in order to be able to say, I've sold my home. So while we're talking about selling your home, let's start there, because your home is usually your number one logistical issue. I'm not going to go into too much detail about how to sell your home or how to buy another home, because I'm not a realtor and I do not want to give you the wrong advice. But I have linked to a video I did on the Leaving California YouTube channel with realtor Shay Faulkner, where she discusses in great detail exactly what a realtor should do for you when they're selling your home. And then don't forget to check out the Leaving California approved realtor list that I mentioned earlier, that's saved in the file section on the homepage. Because when you work with a great realtor, they are going to have suggestions for all of the things that you need to do to fix up your home or change about your home so that you can get the best sale price. You may not need to do very much to your home in this market, but they are going to be able to advise you. And if you are renting, you're still going to need to get your home cleaned. If it has a yard, you maybe need to get your yard fixed up and maybe make a few repairs so that you don't lose your deposit. So the first thing you're going to do is list all of those things that you need to do to your home to get the best sale price or to keep your deposit. And don't forget to add a due date to each item so that you can stay on track with everything that you need to get done. And then you need to figure out how to find a home in your new state. And these things are going to happen simultaneously. Finding a home in a new state may involve a trip to check out a few places that you really like. Or if you already know where you want to move to, then you can contact one of the approved realtors and get this process started. I have a whole section in my Make the Move guide about how you can plan a trip to visit the places that you think you're going to love, and also what you should do if you can't visit a place that you think you want to move to, either because you just don't have time or you don't have the budget. So that's all in my Make the Move guide. But when you do find a home that you like, or if you already know where you want to move to, your realtor is going to be the one to guide you through all the steps that you need to take to buy a property in your new state, because the process, the rules, the fees are all going to be slightly different. And again, I don't want to give you the wrong advice, but if you know kind of where you want to move to, if you contact one of the realtors on our approved realtor list, they will be able to give you really, really specific advice so that you can list all of the things that you need to do to buy a home in a new state on your master list. If you're renting, you still have lots of things to do, because you're going to need to contact your property management company and figure out how to break your lease if you have to do that. I strongly encourage you, try not to break your lease because it is so expensive. And I always suggest that you get references from your current property company, because that's going to help you when you come to rent in a new state. You'll also need to research places to rent in your new state. And I always suggest that you reach out to property companies and get pre-approved. That way, then when properties come up, they will often rent to you before they even hit like their rental listings. That's what happened with us. We got pre-approved before we moved to California. We were in Texas on our way to California, had nowhere to live, and I just reached out to a property company, and the place that we ended up renting never actually hit their rental listings. They just rented it to us because we were pre-approved and desperate. I literally said, I will take any property that you have. So just some tips for finding a rental property in your new state. And then while we're dealing with the issue of finding a new home in your new state, you are going to have to deal with your second biggest logistical issue, which is dealing with all of your stuff. Even if your move is months or maybe years away, start sorting now. You have way more stuff than you imagine, and it's going to take you so much longer to sort than you could ever believe. Even if you feel like you have very little stuff, it takes so long. If your move is soon and you've not started sorting yet, I would strongly recommend that you rent a dumpster. Yes, you can plan to sell or donate as much stuff as possible, but you will still have so much stuff to get rid of. And a trash can fills up very quickly. When we left California, I felt like there was hardly anything that we were getting rid of. But I have an F-150 truck, and we still managed to fill 2 truckloads full of stuff that we couldn't sell, we couldn't donate, that my husband had to take to the dumpster at work. If he hadn't had access to that dumpster, I would have loved to have had one on my driveway. My other rule is the longer that you've lived in your home and the younger your kids are, the more stuff you'll have. And having that dumpster for the stuff that you can't sell or donate is worth every penny. I also advise people to start sorting the worst area first when you begin planning for your move. This is when you have the most energy and enthusiasm. And usually that area that you are dreading dealing with is a storage unit, a basement, a shed, or a garage. Do not leave the worst area until the end of your move. You will be exhausted and it will make it even harder to sort or clean that area. And I also suggest that you start with sentimental things like baby clothes or photos or things that you've inherited. Dealing with the emotions of getting rid of things and accepting that you're about to start a new life in a new state is tiring and emotionally draining, and it's not something that you want to leave until the last minute. I also recommend clearing an area where you can stack your boxes as you pack them. If you have a garage, clear that area first, and then you can pack your boxes. And then as you pack your boxes, you can stack them in the garage. But you don't need a big area to stack those boxes if you don't have a garage. When we lived in a 1,000 square foot apartment in Florida, we just took the legs off our dining table and packed it flat so that it would go in the pod. And then we used the area where the dining table had been to stack boxes as we packed them. Because when you have a stacking area, it means you can clear everything out of each room except for the essentials. And when you do this, you're going to get to see all the progress that you're making that's going to motivate you to do more. And you can also see very clearly what is left still to pack. And then we come to the question that I get asked so much. Should I get rid of everything and buy new, or should I pay to ship it? If it was before COVID, I would have advised that you sell everything and buy new to save on moving costs. But now my advice is slightly different. The lead times on furniture and appliances can be 2 to 3 months, and the costs of everything is increasing significantly. So now my advice is, if you love your stuff, or if it's reasonably new, it's worth paying more to ship it. To give you a good example, we paid $4,500 for a second pod when we left California to move our stuff from California to Georgia, because our furniture was all new and I loved it. And there was no way that I could have replaced everything that fitted in that pod for $4,500. So to make your decision about whether you sell and then buy new, or whether you ship it, you have to look at shipping costs, replacement costs, and whether you love the stuff that you have. And you also have to decide whether you're prepared to wait maybe 6 to 8 weeks for your replacement furniture to arrive. Obviously you can go to Goodwill, you can go to Salvation Army and pick up furniture to make do if that's what you prefer. So it's going to come down to your budget and your shipping costs and whether you love your stuff. And so if you want to go into more detail about how to sort your stuff and how to pack it up, I go into more detail in my Make the Move guide. And I've also linked to a video I did with professional organizer Renate Kranzberg, and she's got some great advice about how to pack up your stuff and how to sort it. But once you've sorted everything and decided what you're going to take with you, you need to figure out how you're actually going to move it. And again, your budget is going to dictate your options. Are you going to pay for a full service moving company where the company does everything for you? Will you do it yourself, either with a pod type of unit or a U-Pack truck that you load and someone else ships for you? Or will you rent a truck or buy a trailer and load and drive it yourself? You have lots of options, but your budget is going to dictate it for you. If you want to use a moving company, we have a list of approved moving companies, again saved in the files section on the homepage, along with the list of approved realtors. They are all amazing professionals who will give you a binding quote that will not change when they arrive to move your stuff. And I promise you, they will not lose your stuff. But the big thing to remember when you are booking a moving company is never, ever, 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 ever use a broker. Always use a reputable moving company with great references, and they must come out to see all your stuff to give you a binding quote. Sometimes they can do like a video call or a Zoom call, but they have to look at your stuff and they have to give you a quote that you actually sign. If you have not signed your quote, it is not binding. So if you call someone and they give you a quote over the phone, or if you get an internet quote, it is not binding, and the chances are you are probably dealing with a broker. I hear horror stories all the time about people who paid a broker who quoted them a price over the phone, but when that moving company got there, they were told it would be twice the price. Usually this is just because you have way more stuff than the broker quoted for, or maybe your property is difficult to get to, or you aren't fully packed up, or worst case scenario, you have been part of a scam. So always check out the moving company's insurance and their reviews on the DOT website. And again, I've linked to it just below wherever you're watching this video. I have also linked to videos that I did with Sally Bulger, with Grace Moving, and John Ruff of Rough and Ready Moving for the Leaving California YouTube channel. And they both have great advice on how to find a moving company. If you are using Pods, ABF U-Pack, or any of the other self-packing services, you can still hire professional movers to help you load. But if you do it yourself, remember to pack as much as possible into stackable boxes, pack it tight, and then secure each section with a rope or with ratchet straps. You have to think about that truck braking sharply, going down a hill, going up a hill, or if it's a pod, if you've ever seen them loading a pod, it shakes all over. You've got to think about what's happening to your stuff inside. So you have to pack it tight and tie it down. And then my final advice is, if you are renting a U-Haul type of truck, is to see if you can rent it in a neighboring state more cheaply, especially if you're in California. Sometimes it can be several thousands of dollars cheaper, and that kind of savings makes it worth driving to pick up that rental truck. The other thing I suggest to save money is, if you have school-age children, you're probably planning on moving in the summer, so it's less disruptive academically. But if you are on a really tight budget, I always recommend that you move at off-peak times. We moved in October, and it was significantly cheaper than when we moved in June, when we moved the previous time. My kids did take a couple of weeks adjusting to their new school, but the money that we saved made it worth it. And also for my kids, because everybody else had been in school for 2-3 months, they were the only new kids. So all the other kids were already settled, and they were so great with my kids. They helped, show them around, show them what they needed to do. And so my kids had a great experience starting a new school, a few months into the term. And you can also, or the semester, sorry, you can also consider doing a midweek move as well, because that tends to be cheaper than weekend moves. And then while we're talking about moving your stuff, if you have multiple vehicles or boats or jet skis, motorcycles, ATVs, additional cars, all those kind of vehicles, 2 years ago, I would have advised you to sell those vehicles and buy new when you got to your new state to save on the cost of shipping. But right now, it may actually be cheaper to ship your vehicle than to replace it when you get to your new state. But when you create a detailed budget, and I'll help you create your budget if you download my Make the Move guide, the cost of shipping versus buying in your new state is going to just determine which is your best option. And if you decide to ship your vehicle, again, do not use a broker if you can possibly help it. Go direct to the vehicle hauler who has great references and insurance. Always ask for their DOT number, and then search on the DOT number, the DOT website that I've linked to in the post notes. And we also have a list of fabulous approved vehicle movers, again saved in the file section. So go there and contact them. If they can't help you, they will be able to recommend someone who can. And then my final advice for moving all of your stuff is that on that first day, if you are driving to your new state, do not plan to drive for more than 4 or 5 hours. Packing up those final things and saying your goodbyes is going to take so much longer than you plan, and you're going to be exhausted after packing up. And if you're driving a big truck, it's way more tiring than driving a car, especially if you're towing a trailer. So plan a short day's drive that first day. As you can tell, I could devote a whole probably hour or two to packing up and moving, but I go into much more detail in my Make the Move guide, especially regarding how to sort your stuff. So we still have lots of more logistics to cover, so I'm going to have a quick drink, and then we're going to talk about employment. So when it comes to employment, if you are moving for a job or you have a job lined up in your new state, it is going to make moving so much easier. And if your new company will help with relocation costs, that's even better. It's always worth asking, because you never know. Even if they'll just give you, $1,000 to help, every little helps when you are moving. But if you need to find a new job before you move or soon after you move, there are lots of things that you need to take care of. The obvious ones are, is your resume up to date? Do you have a job profile set up on job search websites? Are you checking those job search websites daily, and have you set up notifications for job openings? When I talk to HR managers and people who are searching for jobs, Indeed.com seems to be the preferred website right now for HR managers and also for people looking for work. So make sure that your profile is set up on Indeed. But the best way to find a job is to do a search for local businesses in your industry in the areas that you want to move to. Every business in every state is desperate for employees. So now is such a good time to find a new job. And when you find a local business that you like the sound of or that you know is in your industry, give them a call and ask if they're hiring. Companies are always looking for people with initiative who want to work for them, and calling up shows that shows them that you're interested and that you have initiative. Even if they're not hiring right now, they're going to remember you. And when the job does come available, you're probably going to be one of the first people that they call. And now, because of Zoom and Teams, you can set up a meeting and interviews without ever having visited their office or even being in the same state. I also suggest that you set up a profile on LinkedIn and connect with people in your industry in the state or the town that you want to move to. And you also need to reach out to every single contact that you can possibly think of through your current job. Reach out to Facebook contacts, friends, family. When you're moving, you literally need to use every connection that you possibly have. And if you want to go into a little bit more detail with employment issues, check out the video that I've linked to on the Leaving California YouTube channel that I did with an HR manager. She had tons of great advice. And also, when you move, it is the perfect time to reevaluate your work situation. Do you want to change industry, or maybe start a new career? Or maybe you're ready to start your own business or go self-employed. You'll need to check out the rules and regulations for your new state. But if your new state's business friendly and less regulated than California, it may be the perfect time to start your business or become self-employed. And again, I've linked to a video I did with Ryan Drain, who specializes in helping businesses relocate to a new state or starting up a new business. So once you have planned for employment, the next big thing that you need to take care of is health insurance. In an ideal world, you would get a job that provides healthcare. If you're in that lucky position, just double check when your coverage begins, because you don't want to have a lapse in coverage. Because based on my experience, the stress and exhaustion of moving will make any existing health conditions worse, and someone is bound to get sick. My husband actually got a kidney stone the day before we left Florida on our way to California, and we had to stop off twice in hospitals en route. And then when we left California to move back to Georgia, I got sick and needed an emergency prescription. So I was so glad that we had health insurance both times. You can check out the video I did with Garrett Montague on the Leaving California YouTube channel, as he covers all of the issues that you need to know regarding health coverage. And if you or a family member qualifies for Medicare, you can watch the video that I've linked to with Bonnie Dobbs, who is a Medicare expert, and she can go into a lot more detail. And obviously, if you or family members have specific medical needs that you're going to need to accommodate those needs in the place that you move to. You need to make sure that your healthcare needs can be met. And also, when you're traveling to your new state, you need to make sure that those health issues are taken care of. All right. So we've talked about the logistics of dealing with your home, moving your possessions, getting a job, and healthcare, because they apply to everyone. But the next few issues I'm going to talk about are specific only to certain people, and so I'm going to go into them in a little less detail. The fourth logistical issue that you need to deal with is the needs of your children if you have them. Finding the right school if you have school-age children is vital to most parents, but I have a word of caution. If you look at these online school rating websites, like I think it's greatschools.org, the score a school gets online doesn't show the whole picture. Many rural schools get 5 or 6 out of 10, but often they have the most amazing community and your kids will get such a great education. So when you're looking at school ratings, use them as a guide, but don't make the final decision until you get to visit, especially if everything else about that community is perfect. Don't rule out a community just because the school doesn't get 10 out of 10. In my experience, often the 10 out of 10 schools are not the greatest places for your kids to go. But obviously you don't want to put your kids in like a 1 out of 10. So just use it as a guide, but wait until you actually go visit and you look at everything in that community and everything it has to offer as a whole, not just basing your decision on school ratings. When you have school-age children, make sure you have records of immunization, past school records, completed enrollment forms, proof of residency. Make sure you have all of those things up to date before you go to enroll your children. We left California in 8 days, so I didn't have up-to-date immunizations and I didn't have copies of my kids' school records. My goodness, sorry, I've been talking for a long time. And it was a complete pain trying to get them enrolled. It actually took me like probably 3 or 4 days of chasing down documents so I could enroll them. If you know the school or county that you want to enroll your kids in, you can go online and find out exactly what the enrollment requirements are so that you can be prepared and not be like me. If you have college age kids, you need to decide if they are going to come with you or if they're going to stay in your current state. You'll also need to consider course availability or college course availability in your new state, and the impact on scholarships, funding and fees if you're in a different state to your kids or if they move with you to your new state. And you also need to figure out, where will they live? If they move with you, do you need a bigger house? Do you need to be close to their college? Or if they stay behind, where are they going to live? And do you have the budget to be able to help them with their needs if they stay behind? And again, I'm going to deal with the logistical issues of moving when you have children in much more detail in my Make the Move guide, because whether they are school aged or older and whether they stay with you whether they stay in your current state or whether they move with you, there are so many issues that you need to account for. And while we're talking about children, one of the biggest reasons people don't leave California is the thought of leaving children or grandchildren behind. This is such a huge concern that it keeps people stuck in a state that they don't love. But many times your children will follow you when they see how great your life is. They just need you to be the pioneer and be the first one to leave. And also for me, based on my experience, my grandparents were in South Africa when I was growing up in England. And now my parents are living in England while my children are growing up in Georgia. I was actually closer emotionally to my South African grandparents than I was to my grandmother who lived just down the road. My grandmother who lived locally, I just took her for granted because she was always around and she was busy with her own life. Whereas my South African grandparents saw so little of me that when we were together, they made a huge effort and we spent so much of their visit doing fun things, and they spent time and invested in me and my brother. And now my parents do exactly the same for my kids. So it really is the quality of time that you spend with someone, not necessarily the quantity that counts. And now, thanks to modern technology, it's much easier to stay in contact via FaceTime and social media. And I do always suggest that you set aside money for flights. That way, if there's a short notice celebration, or if you're really missing family or friends, or if something happens, you know you can fly to visit whenever you need to. And if you can also create a budget for getting together for vacations and holidays, it's going to make the time that you spend together even better because you've got the money to do fun things. And you may even find that your relationships grow and improve with just a little bit of distance. And of course, the more fun that you can make visits with your children or grandchildren or friends, the more likely they are to move and join you. And so the next logistical issue that you may need to deal with is elderly relatives. Are they going to move with you or are they going to stay behind? If they come with you, how is that going to impact where you live in terms of house size and accessibility, local healthcare, local amenities, and also how you're going to travel to your new state. It may not be practical for you to drive across country. You may need to put your elderly relative on a plane, or maybe it's easier for them to drive. You just have to think about all of these issues. And then if your elderly relatives stay in your current state, are you prepared for emergency situations? Do you have the budget to fly back and visit them? And are there people who can help them out before you get there? And do you have all of their needs taken care of? Grocery shopping, yard work, cleaning, or anything else that you help out with currently? Again, I go into a lot more detail in my Make the Move guide. But another big logistical issue that you may have to deal with is animals. And if you have big animals, they come with bigger logistical issues, because moving them to your new state can require very careful planning. I'm sorry, I don't know why my nose keeps itching for some reason. But I do find that the people who move farm animals or horses require very little help. They know all about horse hotels, which are kind of like Airbnbs for big animals. They know about luxury ride transportation companies for their animals, and they tend to kind of calmly deal with whatever is thrown at them. In general, this is a very general generalization, the people who struggle most moving animals are the people with high maintenance pets. And I know that that's a sweeping generalization, but if you have a cat or a dog that doesn't travel well and you want to move them across country, my advice is get them in the car now. Take them for lots of short drives and get them used to traveling. They may go crazy to start with, but they'll eventually get used to traveling, particularly if you do short rides and take them back home. Short rides and take them back home, that's what they're going to get used to. And if your pets aren't calmer by the time you move, you can always ask your vet for advice with CBD oils and sedatives. I am not a vet, so I'm not going to give you advice, but I did grow up on a farm, and I know that as long as your pet is fed and has water and is comfortable in a crate, a few days of traveling is not going to hurt them. We have a border collie sheepdog who goes everywhere with us, and if moving to a new state meant that he was going to have to be uncomfortable in a crate for a few days, or howled or barked the whole way, I would just suck it up and deal with the stress, because I know that my life and his life is going to be so much better in our new state. Luckily though, he gets in our truck and he falls asleep within about 10 minutes because he's so used to being on the road. He's actually traveled to 27 states with us in the last 4 years and stayed in all kinds of places, and it's never been an issue. But if you are looking for pet-friendly hotels, we love La Quintas. They are very basic, but they don't have any pet fee. And so if you are traveling across country, or if you maybe need a short-term place to stay while you're waiting to move into your property in a new state, those pet fees can add up very quickly. And so that's why we like La Quintas. And then that brings me to the final issue that you need to plan for, which is how you and your family members and your pets are going to get to your new state. Are you going to fly there while someone else ships all of your stuff for you? Are you going to drive as fast as possible to your new state so that you can begin your new life? Or are you going to do my favorite, which is to push out all of your dates? The date that you're going to move into your home, the date that you're going to start your job, and then you can plan an epic road trip. Or if road trips aren't your thing, you could plan an amazing vacation to celebrate the start of your new life. Because by the time you get to that final stage where you're ready to move across country, you are going to be so tired, so exhausted, and you are going to want to be able to take time to celebrate how far you've come and to get excited about the start of your new life. We actually took a month-long vacation to South Africa before we moved to Florida. And then when we moved from Florida to California, we took a 6-week road trip across the southern states and through Colorado. And it was just the most amazing experience. But if you don't like road trips, go book an amazing beach vacation in your favorite resort. Okay. So there are many other logistical issues that I go into much more detail in my Make the Move guide, but I think we've touched on the most common issues here. You're also going to need to account for any issues that are unique to your own situation too. But by now, you probably have a fairly lengthy master list of items that you need to take care of. And many of those line items on your master list are going to need to be broken out into much more detail on a separate planning sheet. And you're going to have some pretty big decisions to make regarding which businesses and services to use, not to mention which house to buy, which job to take, healthcare plans to choose, and all of the decisions that you need to make regarding the people who are moving with you or who's staying behind. Making decisions and solving problems gets exhausting and it can feel overwhelming. But to lessen your sense of overwhelm, here is my 3-step plan for you. I'm going to pin this video in the announcement section so that you can go back and watch it. So step 1 is to watch this video again. And as you watch it, go through section by section and do what I call a brain dump. This is simply listing every single issue that you can think of associated with each category. And those categories again are your home, your stuff, including vehicles, employment, healthcare, kids if you have them, family members who are traveling with you or staying behind, animals, traveling to your new state, and then any needs that are unique to your own situation. When you've written everything down, your list is going to be long. But you will also feel a sense of calm because everything that you need to plan for is out of your head and down on paper. Your thoughts aren't racing around and confusing you. You don't have to worry that you've forgotten something. Everything is listed out for you. Step 2 is then to go systematically through your master list and prioritize the things that you need to do and the decisions that you need to make, and prioritize them in either in order of importance or in terms of the things that you're dreading most. Do the things you're dreading most first while you have energy, like I said at the beginning. And then you also need to assign tasks to people. And if there are other family members moving with you, you need to give them some responsibilities. So that's step 2. Prioritize and assign responsibility. And then step 3 is the most important. You must schedule time every day to work through the items on your list. There is no point having an amazing master list, but then never making the time to deal with the items on your list. The closer your move is, the more time you're going to need to spend every day deciding, booking, and packing. Maybe you need to schedule a whole weekend where you just work through that master list and get all of your tasks done, because it takes so much time to plan your move, as well as running your normal life. Because I know that life is carrying on. You're not just static and planning your move. You're trying to live a real life as well. So you have to be super organized, and you just need to keep going even when you're exhausted, because I promise you it is going to be worth it when you are living an amazing life in a state that feels like home. So if you are confident that you have your move all figured out and you don't need any additional guidance, then good luck. I hope that you found this information so valuable, and I'm here for you if you need me. You can always post a comment underneath this video and I will get notified if you have questions, if you need any guidance, or you can reach out to me on Messenger. But the easiest and the most efficient way to plan for the logistics of your move is to download my Make the Move planner from my website, which is AlisonWoodall.com, and you just hit the red button. Once you've downloaded my guide, you have everything that you need to plan your move. I know that when you move, money is so tight, so I've made my planner as cost effective as possible, and I've included my whole coaching program. So once you download Make the Move, that is all you're ever going to need from me. No upsell, no bait and switch, no sales emails, no other annoying emails to clog your inbox. Everything that you need to plan your move is included in the guide. So if you found what I just shared with you over the last 45 minutes valuable, then you are going to love my Make the Move guide, because it's a series of short videos and detailed check sheets, and I'm going to take you through everything that we just discussed, but in much more detail and with checklists that are going to, give you all the information you need. Not only that, I am going to show you how to find the perfect hometown in a state that you love. And if you think you've already found your perfect place, my guide is going to confirm all the decisions you've made so that you can feel certain about your move. And I'll also help you calculate exactly how much your move will cost, how to save money, and how to avoid scams. Because like I say, Make the Move covers everything that you need to plan for your move. And so in about 3 to 4 hours, you can have found your perfect hometown, you know how much your move will cost, and you'll have a plan to deal with all of your logistics. So that is it. Go to AlisonWoodall.com, hit the red button and download my planner.